So you're relocating to the area, you're moving to Warrensburg or Knob-Noster, or you're PCSing to Whiteman Air Force Base. Does this area suck? I can help you with that. I know that when I first came here, it was pure culture shock. So hopefully I can kind of give you an idea of what's great and what's not so great. So let's jump right into it. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna start you off with a con. So this was a big one for me. The closest city is Kansas City and it's 45 minutes away. That's a big city. There are some smaller cities like Lee's Summit and Sedalia where you can go and get more shopping options, but really if you want a museum, if you want shows, if you want concerts, if you want big fancy activities, you're gonna have to drive to Kansas City and it's gonna take you 45 minutes to an hour. And make sure that you plan that so you're not driving there during traffic times, which is like in the morning or between 4 and 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So definitely a con. I will say a great pro though is that since we are 45 minutes away from a big city, we have such a wonderful small town feel. Here in Warrensburg, Missouri, we have the University of Central Missouri, and we're about 12 minutes from Whiteman Air Force Base. And because of that, we're a small little town, but we have such a big city feel. We have so many people from all over the world because we have international students that go to the University of Central Missouri. And we have people from all over the United States coming to work at Whiteman Air Force Base. So it's a small town with a big city feel. And watch out, if you go to places like the grocery store, if you go to downtown to go shopping at some of the local businesses, you will see people that you know. I don't know if that's a pro and a con. Basically, everyone's gonna know who you are and maybe a little bit know your business, but it feels cozy, it feels wonderful. Also, another pro about this being a small town is that we have so many activities. What do I mean by that? So parades, we love our parades. We have Bergfest, we have farmers markets, we have things like the Jingle Bell Brew Crawl, which is actually tonight, and my sister and I and my mother are going. It's the brew crawl in our little downtown area. So our small town feel really is wonderful once you get used to it. It's a little bit of a culture shock if you're not prepared, so hope that helps you out. Moving on. Oh, and before I get further into it, make sure that you check out that like button down there so that you can say, hey, this is probably a good video. Maybe other people coming to Warrensburg or Missouri might like to check it out. Also, there's a subscribe button. So it's that little bell thing. If you click on that, every time I make a video, you'll get notified. Moving on. Now, the next big con I'm gonna talk about, and this is kind of a big one, for me at least, coming from living in California for so long, the weather. We have ice storms. Now, if you've ever been in an ice storm, it starts raining and then it starts getting into this weird slush stuff and then it freezes solid. And it's like the most beautiful, deadly, pain in the you-know-what couple days of your life. Everything's frozen. It looks like a magical wonderland, but you can't leave your house, you can't walk down your driveway, you definitely can't drive. So if you're coming here, if you're moving into the area, be prepared in the wintertime. We usually get at least 1 or 2 a year, and they are debilitating. So make sure that you have warm blankets. Make sure you might want to look into a backup generator. Just a thought, because sometimes the ice goes on the trees, takes them down, they take down the power lines, and then you have no power for a day or two, and it gets cold. And if you're like me, who's a creature of comfort, who doesn't like being super cold, probably a good idea to have a power generator. I digress. So it's definitely a big con. The weather here, it gets very cold, it changes in a drop of a hat. I will say a pro of weather is that we have all 4 seasons. I love having a change between, summer to fall. Fall's the best season. I'll die on this hill. And then fall to winter, you see the leaves change and then it snows. And I just think it's magical, especially coming from an area where it was just kind of a beautiful, balmy 70 degrees all the time, not to brag. But here in the Midwest, you have all 4 seasons, and I have come to absolutely love that. So make sure you have proper attire for multiple season changes throughout the year. So the next con we're gonna talk about is if you wanna go to a fine dining restaurant, you're gonna have to drive about 25 minutes. It's true. So the closest fine dining to Warrensburg or Knob-Noster is Sedalia, Missouri. And that's about a 25 to 35 minute drive, depending on where you live in Warrensburg or Knob-Noster. Now, if you want to drive out to the city, that's about 45 minutes. There's a bunch of wonderful local restaurants here in Warrensburg, which I'll talk about in a second. But for fine dining and for a wider variety of international cuisine, you're gonna have to drive up to Kansas City, or you're gonna have to drive down to Sedalia or to Lee Summit or some other surrounding areas. We do not have any fine dining in Warrensburg, unfortunately. Though I think someone needs to move here and open some fine dining. So if anyone sees this video, please do that. Okay, pro, we have so many wonderful, wonderful, wonderful local restaurants that are locally owned and operated. And this is actually one of the most wonderful things about living in a smaller town is that I know who owns Fitters. I know who owns, Barney's. I know who owns, what's another good one? Magnolia Market. Oh, I love that place. There's all these great restaurants. Players. I know who owns Players. I know the families that own them. I know the owners directly. They're wonderful people. They live right here in your neighborhood. And so when you go to their restaurant, they'll usually come to your table, say hi, call you by name, and you're not just supporting a big conglomeration or a chain, you're supporting people whose kids go to your school. So it's a really cool feel, and it's one thing that I push a lot as a real estate agent and a local business owner is buy local, support your local community because they will support you. Moving on. Okay, let's talk about the next con, and that is traffic. So you're like, Eva, you live in a small town. How do you have traffic? Well, let me tell you what. Because we have a university here in town, especially during our football season, we get a lot of traffic on the main roads. And that's people coming into town for things like homecoming or the local Mules game. So if you're coming here, maybe give me a call and I'll let you know if it's a football game day. Because if it is, there's a couple back roads that you're gonna wanna take instead of taking, 13 Highway or DD or any of the main roads that lead towards the university, towards the football field. So give me a call. People might be a little bit annoyed that I give you the local back road insight, but definitely check that out. So speaking of traffic, that moves me on to a pro. Now, here in Warrensburg, there is traffic, nothing like you will see in a larger city. But one of the great things about this town is that everything is only 10 minutes away. So basically, from one side of Warrensburg to the other, wherever you're going to go, it only really takes you about 10 minutes. So like from my house, if I'm going to a grocery store, 10 minutes. If I'm going to my office, about 7 minutes. If I'm going downtown, about 6 minutes. So everything is kind of all in the same area. So you're never going to sit in traffic forever like in a bigger city like St. Louis or Kansas City or, I don't know, Chicago. One of the great things about living here, you don't really have to deal with the traffic that you have to deal with other places. Though I will say, since we are slower paced, get used to taking your time doing things because there ain't no rushing the farmer in a tractor going down 13. If you're behind him, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Moving on. Okay guys, we're gonna talk about my very last con for the area, and that is if you're coming here and you're looking to buy a house because you're moving here for a job or you're going to Whiteman Air Force Base, the really big thing that you need to know is that the housing market here is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly competitive. And that's all of the time. If a house is well priced, it's listed, it looks cute, it looks good, it's between about $200,000 and $400,000, it's gonna go quick. and there may even be multiple offers. And that's because of two reasons. One, I mean, we're awesome, but no, I'm joking. We have the University of Central Missouri. So there's so many people coming here to go to the university. One of the great things that you can do for your child, instead of pay for a dorm, buy a house. And then they live in it while they're here. You don't have to pay dorm fees, and then you sell it when they're done. So that happens all of the time here in Warrensburg. Also, we have Whiteman Air Force Base. So many people, so many military families coming to Whiteman choose to buy houses in Warrensburg. And that's because Warrensburg is a lot larger than Knob Noster. There's a lot more amenities. There's a lot more restaurants, more schools, more options. So with so many people coming here, good houses go fast. And I know this because I am a real estate agent. Imagine that. But there's a flip side to this coin. So here's a pro. The pro is if you're coming to Warrensburg and you don't plan on making this your forever home, or if you're in the military and you know you're only gonna be here for 2 to 6 years because then you're gonna move to another duty station, know this. If you come to Warrensburg or Knob Noster, you buy a house, if you take good care of it, in as little as 2 years, you will make money when you sell it. And I know this because I've sold hundreds and hundreds of homes for military families. I've helped them buy the home, then I've helped them sell the home a couple years later when they leave. And I have never once had a client lose money on their property, even using a VA loan where they put no money down. So this is a really great flip side of this housing market concern here in Warrensburg and Knob Noster, is that houses gain equity value so fast because there's so much demand for housing, especially since Whiteman got the new B-21 bomber contract, that you're gonna make money on your house. So do not worry, even if it's harder to buy a house here, and it's really not if you have a good agent. When you leave, you're gonna make some money when you sell it. So there you go. There are all of my pros and cons for the area. Now there are a couple other cons that I didn't talk about. Like one, we have some weird bugs like ticks, chiggers, lots of mosquitoes, but I'll go into those at a later date in the next video. If you know of any other pros and cons that you can think of or that you want me to talk about, pop it down there in the comments. Also, if you're coming to the area, if you're PCSing to Whiteman Air Force Base, if you're looking for a home, or even if you just have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out because my contact number is right down there. Call me, text me, email me. I really love talking to people, and I love talking to people about Warrensburg and Whiteman and Missouri and Knob Noster. It's a little ridiculous. So any questions, do not hesitate, reach out. I'm your gal. Also, hit that like and subscribe button. Get notified in the next video. See you next time.